AI enablement. That's it. That's the video. Like, comment, let the LinkedIn algorithm do its thing. I'm only kidding. Let's get serious. So, look, folks, about a year ago, I wrote an article where I basically went into one of my Nostradamus modes, as I call them, and prophesied that AI architects, both from a technical perspective and a non technical perspective, would be one of the next big roles in the future of work, which I think was really important because there's been this consistent AI job apocalypse narrative out there, which hasn't always been true, if we read in between the lines, of course. Now, that thought really came about at the time because I kept being asked on LinkedIn and in my newsletter if I was an AI architect. And of course, my answer was always no, because I don't look at myself as a technical individual. Yes, I share a lot of videos on how to use technology in the modern workforce for learning and performance, but I still very much class myself as a non technical individual, especially when it comes to the developer sides of stuff like AI technologies. However, what this kind of kept showing me is that there was a bunch of data where this could be an emerging need. It could become a role. And I'll link that article, original article, so you can read that. But I actually wrote a newer article where I was speaking about AI enablement overall and how this is a bit of an evolution specifically for L&D and HR teams. Before you drop hate comments, wherever you're viewing this, stay with me and I will explain. So I'm finding myself in this space, specifically working with L&D and people teams, and even some teams outside that from time to time, to specifically look at AI enablement. And we'll break down what that means in a second. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this and I'm doing this video is because at the moment, I'm really clear that in order for L&D to be successful long term, as the world sits today and the context of what we do, I believe it needs to move from production to enablement. That is not just AI enablement. AI is part of that, but it's the big, sexy, focus trend right now. So a lot of the enablement attention is going there, but there's enablement overall from human skills and capabilities and everything else. So, before you get out your pitchforks and fire and chase me down the street, do know when I say enablement, AI enablement is one part of this. And I also think this is going to be paramount for the next 24 months or, 2 and a bit years. I think for L&D's relevance and for its credibility, it needs to stamp itself in the organization as the AI enablement function. And look, we're seeing this already with a lot of companies that are merging their people teams, product teams, and technology teams to make overall AI departments. So this is not exactly new, but I'm going to kind of give you my sight on it from the work that I've been doing. Now, I keep saying these words, AI enablement. You've probably heard about AI fluency and AI adoption. For me, there is a big difference between AI enablement and AI adoption because AI adoption is about making people use tools. And you've probably seen lots of stuff where companies go, we gave our people 5,000 licenses to this tool. We've adopted AI. That's not how it works. AI adoption, for me at the moment, is a bit of a similar to what we've seen in the L&D world because it's tracking vanity metrics like how many licenses get distributed across an organization, what are the number of logins, and how many cat pictures is your annoying team member generating, basically using all of those tokens. That is not really something that's going to help. AI enablement is a different game. I look at AI enablement as more long term. So, what we're talking about here is equipping humans with the knowledge, skills, and frameworks to use AI effectively in their work. It becomes part of the culture. It's not just adopt it and then do nothing with it afterwards. So, my fellow L&D teams and individuals who are watching this, you can help so much with the latter in many, many ways. The big problem is we are being held prisoner by our organizations to the former with adoption and chasing those vanity metrics. So what we need to be clear on is when I talk about enablement, when I talk about adoption, is that having access is not the same as delivering value with it. Access is adoption, enablement is delivering that value long term and making it part of your culture. So we talk about enablement. What does all this mean? What is the roles in that? And what could that look like? Here's an example I'm going to give you. In a recent newsletter, I spoke about this concept of this AI enablement architect that I was talking about before, but I've updated it. So I'm specifically looking at this type of role sitting in within a core people function, going across L&D, HR, whatever we bloody call it nowadays. And when I started to think about the role that I'm doing, which is basically this with a lot of organizations today, what do you actually need? What are the skills? What are the mindsets? What are the behaviors that are most useful for this role, and vice versa for a department that is looking after enablement? Because this really is not just an emerging role, but an evolving role right now, and very much in the future of what we can see with work currently. So, like most people, I build a lovely visual to get your attention. So let's just break this down bit by bit and talk about the specifics of this for a role in AI enablement and why it's useful. So, first things first, digital intelligence. If you've read any of my work previously, you know I bang on about digital intelligence. Now, this is going to be specifically focused around generative AI technologies, of course, but you don't need to be an AI engineer, but you do need to understand fundamentally, like with any technology, how does it work at a foundational level? So you can map that to any enablement guidance that you're given an organization. You're going to have to be well versed in the current AI landscape. That doesn't mean keeping up with every single AI bros breaking news post or the trillion AI newsletters that are out there tracking tools. Just understand what's happening in our industry and what your organization is using. Now, another part of this, you'll never get away from this because it's incredibly human. You'll find with a lot of these things that you are still incredibly human, is storytelling. And again, we're looking at this around Gen AI technologies. Like, I've kind of cheated here a little bit because I've used this as a catch-all phrase to talk about how do you sell your solutions that you're trying to build, AI-powered ones in the organization? How do you position stakeholders to these ideas? And how do you then market these AI-powered creations that you're doing as well? So storytelling is incredibly important in anything you do. The same for an AI enablement architect. Performance consulting. If you're watching this, you're in L&D, you probably already know what I'm talking about. You still need this because performance is life. And without a clear, why are we doing this thing, you can expect everything else to fail. So you need to align the business. You need to be outcome focused. You need to be solutioneering. Workflow design. It's always been around. It's becoming more trendy and it makes sense. For me, this is where a lot of the gold is in work that I do with organizations, and it's currently being underserved. Workflow design is not about saying, hey, how do we get ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever to fit into our workflow? What it is instead is knowing how to help teams deconstruct the things that they already do on repeat and understand that current workflow. Because a lot of people don't, right? And you might not yourself. When people that I talk to, they don't know how they do the things that they do. They just do it. So actually helping them to understand what is all the steps is your workflow. Once you get that, you analyze it to see, is this something that we can reshape with AI at the core? Or can it be enabled by AI in some way? It is not about saying, how do we bolt AI onto this? It is about taking that first principles thinking and looking at, how do we change this with what we have today? Now, AI fluency, again, another very, very popular terminology at the moment in time. A buzzword, potentially, but let's see how it goes. But I personally think this is a good one that has a lot of meaning behind it. Because once you get unstuck from that marketing wrapper, this is really focused on not just looking at tools, but about how you choose to use tools and their outputs in what I look at as an intellectual even, ethical, and common sense capacity. That last one isn't always easy. And our final one is human instincts. So I've covered this in quite a bit of detail already. I will link to that wherever you're viewing this video so you can look at that human instincts piece. But I really look at this as your advantage in all the work that you'll do. So when we say that, we're thinking about your taste, your judgment, your expertise, your unique point of view. How are you bringing all of that together? And then, of course, there's more than this, but these are the kind of top level bits that we want to consider for a role and for a team. And we have our usual underpinning of human skills. that you need to navigate life in general. But to wrap this all up, and you've skipped the end of the video for a little TLDV, or too long didn't view, is that L&D is very much and should be moving from that production standpoint into enablement overall, not just AI enablement, but AI enablement is a big piece of the focus at the moment in time and where teams can drive most value. And this is a bit of a snapshot in terms of some of the things that are required to do that in a role that is part of the future of work, or really is part of the work that we do now. So look, those are my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. As always, leave your comments wherever you're viewing this, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.